You're rocking with the best. Peace and welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we've got a lot to talk about. First, let's talk about the big story, which is the fact that President Trump has officially been charged with an indictment as he's been charged with conspiracy to defraud the United States. What will happen next? We check in with our very own attorney, Suzette Speaks, who's going to give us some more insight about this important and historic case. Also, let's talk about Governor Ron DeSantis cutting diversity programs in the Disney district in Florida. What does that mean? We'll share with you some of the latest around that. And our big culture conversation, the Ice Cube appeared on Tucker Carlson's show on Twitter, and it's forcing us to ask the question, should we talk to those who disagree with? A lot of people have said that Ice Cube should not have made his appearance known on what some was called him as a white nationalist on the white nationalist platform. So we'll talk a little bit about that and a whole lot more. So stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we are streaming live right now on blackstarnetwork.com. Also, we are streaming live on Amazon News, on your Roku television, where you can stream Black Star Network 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just ask Alexa, say, Alexa, pull up Black Star Network, and this guy will show up on your screen. Oh, okay, all right. The other guy too, Brother Roland. He'll be there. But definitely streaming there. And if you want to join us in the conversation, we are streaming on social media platforms of Facebook and, of course, on our YouTube page. Just go under Roland Martin, where you can join us in the conversation and be a part of today's Culture Crew. Big shout out to my OG Legacy Culture Crew members, man, that are already started checking in. Who we got watching it? Oh, I see everybody's in the building. Tiana, Cindy D, what's good? That's right. Pretty Brown Mimi 726. Happy Wednesday, Mimi. Pastor and Brother Damon Blissett. Peace, brother. Peace, peace, peace. You don't like my music? I see you. Thank you so much for checking in. Robin Welch. That's right, Robin. Happy Hump Day, Culture Crew. I hear you, and happy Hump Day to all of the great Culture Crew members. So, folks, join us right now. We are streaming live on YouTube under Roland Martin. And you could be a part of the Culture Crew today. All right, folks, you know, it's Wednesday. I got my sister from another mother checking in with us in a few moments, checking in all the way from hot Miami, Florida. Yes, my sister Suzette Speaks, who is a host of her own show on YouTube. Make sure y'all subscribe to her, as well as an attorney, as we have these conversations. Of course, the big one is, folks, the fact that President Trump has been indicted with conspiracy to defraud the United States. This is not a lightweight charge. And I want to check in with my sister, Suzette Speaks, as we get some more details about this special counsel, what's going to happen next, and all of that. And folks, get ready to join us in the conversation as we talk about former President Donald Trump, and even discussing the viability of his candidacy for president. So, Suzette, again, it's always a pleasure to check in with you on Wednesdays. How are you? Besides, hi.
I know it's hot down here, but we have a lot of hot topics today. Hello, everybody. I love Wednesdays, and it's great to be here.
Right, absolutely. All right, so Suzette, let me just pick your legal mind here. President Trump of conspiracy to defraud the U.S. Very serious. This is not a lightweight charge. What does that mean? What does that charge entail?
So Special Counsel Jack Smith has been on a tear with his investigations of former President Donald J. Trump. Now we're looking at several charges, 3 conspiracy charges in this latest indictment, which means there are people, if you hear the word conspiracy, that work in concert with Mr. Trump, although he's the only one named, to commit a crime, a federal crime. So in this indictment, which was 45 pages, came out yesterday, we saw unnamed co-conspirators, 6 of them. Now, there are a lot of names that are flying in terms of speculation, as in who they may be. And you may ask, why weren't other people named? Well, the DOJ has a policy that if you are not charged yet with a crime, and I said yet, your name won't be mentioned. But there are a lot of clues in terms of what was laid out as to who might have also been involved. So the main charges stem around 3 particular federal statutes, and they come from what occurred and what role Donald Trump played as far as January 6th. So, a summary of the three conspiracy charges would be the conspiracy to defraud the United States government. And we're also looking at the conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding. What was that? The January 6th count, where Vice President or former Vice President Mike Pence would have certified, again, he did not have any influence at that moment to change the outcome of an election, right? A duly elected President Joe Biden. But the actions that took place that were trying to obstruct that proceeding now have been called a conspiracy. And Mr. Smith does believe he can prove that to a jury. And then the final charge would be combined to be called conspiracy against the right to vote and have one's vote count, right? So this is what we are seeing. And we know that the co-conspirators include 4 attorneys, 1 DOJ official, and 1 consultant that worked with former President Trump. So there are a lot of people who, although not named now, this does tend to indicate that they could possibly be named later. But what we know is that Special Counsel Jack Smith wants to hone in and have his day in court versus the former president. That's why he only named 1 person as of right now. Donald Trump's trial calendar is adding up. There are now 3 ongoing conspiracies. And I don't know if you guys were on social media seeing the illustrious rapper Plies talking about 3 indictments in a kind of viral moment. But this is serious. This is very serious. And again, we are going to see Mr. Trump appear in a federal district court in DC tomorrow to be arraigned, the charges to be presented, and to go through. I don't know if they'll make him take the mug shot and the fingerprints, etc. But he will be having his first appearance in court tomorrow.
Let me ask you a question, and we're coming across some breaking news. So let me first talk about this breaking news that we just got. That there are U.S. Capitol's Senate building is under lockdown and has been evacuated after a 911 call reporting an active shooter being on the site. So we're watching this situation, but there are no confirmed reports of any gunshots. It's still under investigation, but the police are urging people to stay away from the area. Again, once again, folks, breaking news out of Washington, D.C. The United States Capitol building for the Senate has been under lockdown and has been evacuated after a 911 call of an active shooter on the scene. So we are certainly going to keep you posted about that situation in Washington, D.C. And hopefully there won't be any type of fatalities or any casualties during this situation. But getting back to the point that you were just making, just laying out the charges, and I appreciate you, Suzette, for doing that, because and I'm with Plies, 3 indictments. This man should not be able to run for a jog, let alone run for office of the president of the United States. So at this point, there's so many questions around this. One being, because of these indictments, are these all like leading up to some bigger case? Is this latest indictment coming from Jack Smith? Is this just as a national type of situation, or is this a statewide thing? How does that play out?
So we're looking at different jurisdictions being able to charge a defendant. And again, Mr. Trump is innocent and will have his day in court until proven guilty. But they are basically being logged by different jurisdictions. So in this tapestry of courts we have state courts, which each of the states has its own kind of court system. We have federal courts, which is the U.S. government, bringing those who violate U.S. code and statutes to bear. And so we have various simultaneously running cases running.
Right.
I want to say court cases. There we go. Court cases running at the same time, because there are so many. Let me just kind of go over them, right? So none supersedes the other. Again, this is a federal case that we're now seeing, but there's already an open federal indictment in the Southern District of Florida. Here in Miami, we saw the whole spectacle of former President Trump being indicted here for the documents that he withheld according to Jack Smith, illegally. And he also stopped the investigation, or trying to impede the investigation by hiding the documents, the classified documents, and moving them. That court case will be heard next in the Southern District of Florida. Again, that covers like almost all of South Florida. So in Fort Pierce, it's the same case. The judge out there will be holding the next hearing May 2024. He also has an open New York case, right? That's a state case in New York, where he will have a hearing in March of 2024. That goes to the behavior in the Stormy Daniels scandal, whether or not there was anything criminally done in the state of New York for his role in the Stormy Daniels hush money. This is separate and apart. This was brought in DC, right? So this is the behavior related to January 6th, right? Whether he conspired to use the resources of the government and his office to obstruct federal proceedings, to prevent the vote count in Congress on January 6th, right? The election being certified, and whether or not he obstructed, which is under the U.S. Constitution, the right to vote. So we can have several different cases going in different jurisdictions. It would not be one or another. And we have coming up probably before the end of August. Let me put Georgia in there, where Bonnie Willis, Fulton County District Attorney. We're looking at possibly some sort of indictment there. She has been hinting at it, and they've been preparing possibly before the end of August for what occurred in the Georgia state election. So each jurisdiction has its ability to bring different charges, and they can all be going simultaneously.
So, and Mimi brought up the same question. Mimi, you said, Suzette, can the federal and state charges be combined? Is that, no, that's a big no.
It's two different jurisdictions.
Gotcha.
It's two different jurisdictions. Yeah.
Gotcha. Look, first and foremost, I don't think anybody, and then I'm talking about the historic nature of this whole situation. I don't want that for folks to kind of just, look past, because I know we got some folks that are still riding with Trump. You got people who are still willing to stand with them. I read a piece today that I saw that Senator Tim Scott out of South Carolina said he's going to stand with, the former president. The other black senator out of Florida, what's the guy that's down there? Your guy, Suzette. Byron Donald.
Yes, there you go.
Byron Donald. He's a Trump supporter. He's not riding with DeSantis. So it's still amazing that the historic nature of this is that you actually have a former president. I just want to put this down in its simplest forms. Here's a former president who has been undergoing criminal investigations that has led to being indicted 3 times. He's been impeached twice, and he is currently running for president for the seat for president of the United States. I want us to really think about this. And guess what, folks? People are still going to vote for him. And here's the thing about it, Suzette, and we're going to take our first pause on this. It's not that people are still going to vote for him. It's the fact that he still has a grip on the Republican Party as a 3-time indicted, 2-time impeached, 1-time jerk. He's still the quote unquote, the face of the Republican Party. Y'all do the math on that. I mean, seriously. I can't understand why this is happening. So the historic nature of this is I don't want this to fall on deaf ears, or this is and if you're still talking about, oh no, this is the system, then that means that every black man and woman that has been wrongfully accused, that's sitting in prison right now after enduring 10, 20, 30 years for situations that they did not do, they need to be let go. They need to be let go. Wow. This is absolutely insane. At this point, the Republican Party should be like, we can't do this anymore. But guess what? They won't. And people say, well, this is not about Republican and Democrat. No, it's really not about Republican and Democrat. It's about what's in the best interest of the American people. And more importantly, if this is the best that America has to offer on the other side of the aisle, then
Serious.
what else can be said? We got to take a break. Folks, I want you to join us in the conversation as we're talking about this ordeal with former President Donald Trump. Share your thoughts, share your questions. We got my sister Suzette Speaks, our attorney, host of the Suzette Speaks Show. What are your thoughts about this? How does this resonate with you? Share with us on our YouTube page as we're streaming on YouTube under Roland Martin. And let's continue the conversation on the other side. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, talking about the latest ordeal, the third indictment of former President Donald Trump that was issued out by the Mr. Jack Smith, and how it has caused a lot of folks to have new conversations about the president, his criminal activity. This latest set of charges stem from his trying to disrupt the 2020 election. One of the big charges coming out this indictment is the fact that he committed to a conspiracy to defraud the United States. Basically, he tried to create a lie, or he ran on this idea of what they call the big lie, to say that the United States the 2020 election was stolen, and that he was either deemed the winner in some states, or that the election should not be considered legal. We've been talking to our sister Suzette Speaks, host and attorney, kind of giving us some insights on the latest set of charges coming out of the office of Mr. Jack Smith. But Suzette, I want to bring you back into the frame. The fact that this guy has been indicted 3 times, like you went down the list of dates of that. I mean, come on, man. Come on. People lose their jobs over less.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's no way in the world that a man that has 3 counts and 3 indictments of trying to basically disrupt the federal election. I mean, damn near it's the word treason. It's so close to this conversation that it is crazy. And then Teresa Lee checked in. Teresa, you said, and he's a convicted rapist. Man, he got rape charges against him. I mean, he got rape charges.
People that will ardently defend him and ardently support him.
Ardently defend him. How does a man who's considered a rapist, Brian Christian, you said, yeah, it's crazy that some people are still going to vote for a guy who's sexual offender, a traitor, and a thief. And you talking about how he's going to think about the best interest of the country as president?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm serious, bro. I'm serious, and I'm not this guy, Suzette. I'm really not. But if you're telling me you vote for Trump, I'm gonna think something is seriously wrong with you. There's no way in the world that a man that brings all of this baggage into the office, and you think, oh, but he's going to set the country on a course that's going to be beneficial and progressive, and it's going to be inclusive. There's no way you can prove that to me. If you say, no, I'm riding with Trump in 2024, I'm seriously going to have to question your sanity.
Yeah, when you look at some polls, though, Farajii, the damage that was done through the big lie, as you mentioned, there are some polls that say upwards of like 70% of primary voters in the Republican side really believe that Trump won. Like, they really believe it. So even though we can look at facts and we can see that, nothing was found in terms of, we talked about last week with the Georgia election workers who were wrongly, lied about by former Trump attorney, Rudy Giuliani, whose bar license has been suspended in both New York and DC for untruths. Let's call it that way, like my grandma used to say. When we look at, the pattern and practice of what we are discovering in multiple different cases. Again, this is not to say that, again, Mr. Trump is guilty, but we're looking at charges that are stemming from various incidents, right? The Georgia election, what went down in Florida with the classified documents, what happened with Stormy Daniels, and now related to January 6th. So it's just not one incident we're even talking about.
Right.
There's a pattern and practice that is undeniable if you just look at facts. So with Mr. Smith, I wanted to just bring up that he didn't include like sedition or seditious conspiracy, which is like an even greater kind of take on what happened and a charge that possibly could apply. But he was very clean, right? He kept it very simple within these charges, these 4 counts. Something is bound to, have them meet or be supported enough by the evidence to get a guilty a verdict, right? An outcome that shows that Mr. Trump was indeed involved in some of what, if not all of what, and again, he's innocent until proven guilty, he's being allegedly charged with. So we have to be kind of eyes wide open when we're speaking why what we're seeing is happening. And I do think, there are those on the Republican side that have said, and I'll just say it kind of as in balance, that, this is only coming out because of what was Hunter Biden's moment in the light. There are those who are saying that, who are standing up, though, in the party, Asa Hutchinson.
But here's the thing, though, Suzette. Here's the thing. Hunter Biden isn't running for president.
This is true. But his father.
Hunter Biden isn't running. I mean, his father is president. You see what I'm saying? But if you get it like Hunter Biden, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying his father going to send him up the river. That's not happening. But at the same time, just because that's his father doesn't mean that his father got to take on whatever issues that he's a grown ass man.
And the White House has been very clear that they're not interfering with any part of that investigation.
The White House is saying he's a grown-ass man.
Yeah.
He just happens to be the son of the president of the United States right now, right? But okay. So people say, well, what about Joe? Look, Joe Biden don't have 3 indictments against him.
Right.
I mean, seriously, he don't have to. And I'm not saying that because I'm saying, oh, he's so much better. I'm just literally saying, looking at the facts, the man has indictments about defrauding the United States. The man has indictments around leading an insurrection. So how do you explain that?
There's so much in that in the indictment, all the different parts of it. But go ahead, sorry, Farajii.
No, I'm just saying, I'm trying to understand, Suzette. You know what I'm saying? You down there, you in Florida, that's the new Trump country right down there, right? Like, what are people saying? Are people like, and I'm talking about Republicans, I'm not just talking about white people, because we even talked about this in the chat. Who brought this up? Hold on. They said, oh, Cindy D, she said, do black men really think Trump is an alpha male? LOL, laughing emoji. They have said black men vote for him because of that. I don't see that. So
the large swath of black men are still Democrats. So we got to be very careful when we say do black men. We're painting with too broad of a brush. And again,
no doubt.
They are in a lower amount than black women, but the majority still vote Democrat. But go ahead.
So do you think that he still has that type of appeal? Whether I think it was like maybe he got 7 or 8% of black male vote during the last election, I believe. But do you still think he has that type of appeal where he's presenting himself as this alpha male, as this guy that has everything under power and control, that he knows what he's doing? Do you think that this type of conversation is going to come up during the 2024 season?
It will. And as you said, to folks who are, I think, a little bit more objective, you would call them, our independent voters, Democrats. And there are Republicans who are objective as well, who have been trying to, as I was saying, kind of reject him as like the only possible candidate for the upcoming election. However, I think there's a part of the emotional attachment to former President Trump that the Democratic Party has not quite figured out how to address. There are people that are going to see this new indictment and all the other charges in the different jurisdictions so far, with more pending, and still say, the system, the deep state, or something that, conspiracy theorists travel in terms of, around the internet, someone's after him, right? Someone's trying to get us, and they have this deep affinity. And I don't know how we kind of break through with, the facts as they are being, super clear to many of us who are just looking at them like, aren't we looking at the same set of facts? But we're not. From the news sources that they use to, again, I think the propaganda that was pushed throughout the pandemic and even before, there are people who are just, it's been ingrained in them that he is for the little guy, even though what he has done is exploit the little guy. I feel sorry for some of the co-conspirators in the documents case. It also struck me, and I was talking to my dad about it, that how he has this stance against immigration, but it seems like everybody who working at Mar-a-Lago come from somewhere else, and strategically so. So I think there's so much contradiction in him that I think hopefully more people do wake up. And I'm glad that Jack Smith has chosen to get these charges filed and set a date prior to the election. Those dates in May and in March are super important, because a lot of the stuff in the indictment was not really brand new to the American public. It was available, and we kind of knew a lot that was previously said between him and his attorneys, or who we're presuming to be the co-conspirators, the unnamed co-conspirators. But there are folks that are just entrenched in that camp. One thing I do want to point out, Farajii, real quick, if I have a moment, is that the judge that will oversee the DC indictment, please just pay attention, guys, to Tanya Chutkan. She is, I have to give a shout out, part of the diaspora, Jamaican American. She's an Obama appointee. Her husband has served in the past as a former DC Superior Judge. And again, we know that DC bench is usually the training ground. That's how we got Ketanji Brown Jackson, the training ground for the Supreme Court. She has the experience. A lot of the January 6 folks came before her, and she laid down the law for those folks who were tried in her court, as a contrast to Eileen Cannon in Miami, where many argue that she doesn't necessarily have that level of experience in the case that she's about to oversee here in the Southern District of Florida. But I can't wait to see this judge in action. She is proven and she's ready, and I cannot wait to see her as the arraignment is performed tomorrow.
And look, very quickly, I know I got to take a quick pause, but I want to throw this out there. Keith Wisdom, you said after he is sentenced, everything in politics will be great for Black folks. No, that's not true. But you said, like, why are we so invested in him getting his? We need to focus on our business and education. Here's why. And I'm glad you brought that up. I don't agree with that first point. I don't know whether you were saying that sarcastically or being facetious. Okay. But the point is why we invested in him. Here's why. Very simple. If a man with this much baggage is able to get to the highest seat in the land with no real accountability, with no checks and balances, no consequences, then what are the chances that we that have been disenfranchised and marginalized have very little impact, power, and influence? What are the chances that our voice is going to be heard? How can we take this system seriously? As much as we don't want to talk about getting out to vote and all of that stuff, we need to put new candidates. How can we take a system seriously if they let a blatant criminal rise all the way to the top of the president? Can you really say I'm gonna have faith in the system? This not 50 years ago. He was in office. He just got out of office, and he's looking to get back in office. So that's why I think this is important. This conversation is so important because it's beyond personality of Trump. It's about the wicked, hypocritical system of America that is at the root of this. That if they let him in and they let him get all the way to the top, or they don't look at all of the baggage, I can't have no hope in this system, Suzette. I can't have faith that this system is going to speak to my interests as a Black man, that it's going to really take me seriously if you allow a blatant criminal, a rapist, a thief to get into office. Then what chances do I have to be heard? All right, I got to take another pause. When we come back, more conversation. Stay with us. It's The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black
own media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Been talking about former President Donald Trump, the latest set of charges, the big indictment that came out of the Washington, D.C., and just so many conversations about what the former president has been doing wrong. And so I've been checking in with my sister, Suzette Speaks. Suzette, thank you again for your expertise on this. Giving us some insight. I don't want to feel crazy, Suzette. I don't want to feel crazy, but I think this is indicative. I don't know if we can put what we're seeing with President Trump in the category of the exception to the rule, or is this indicative of a larger rotten system? You see what I'm saying?
The rotten system as far as him getting into office, or
a rotten system as far as allowing him to go this far and to still be on the ballot and to still be considered a viable candidate for the president.
No, I think the system is working. These court cases are going to occur prior to the election. Hopefully, obviously his legal team are going to try to stall and make sure it doesn't. But I think now, it took a long time for Merrick Garland to appoint a special counsel. That's what bothered me. I think he could have done it sooner, but I think we have seen the diligence of Jack Smith paying off for us to have, a second indictment in a different federal district in as many months, right? I think that we are finally seeing him being held to account. So it's been moving, although slowly, in a direction that is looking at what he did. Some would call it, finally getting that day in court where, we're having him be held accountable. So I don't know that I'm looking at it from the perspective of, why did it take so long, or how did he even get to possibly do this in the first place? Of course, he had the office of the president, and he was directing staff, and he could within, his office, direct people at high levels of government to do things. And it has taken, the Department of Justice through the last almost 4 years now to kind of sift through what is happening or what has happened as far as, where documents were placed and what took place. We knew a lot of this. As I said, the indictment wasn't entirely new. I just wanted the revealing of, and that will come after, who these unindicted co-conspirators actually are. But I do think the wheels of justice turn slowly. And I think that's the most frustrating thing about our wonderful system. Again, there's no place like it on earth. So there are people that get away with crimes around the world, right? So the fact that we have a former president that has actually gotten this far in terms of looking at legal culpability for his acts to overthrow the election is a serious step forward, although it has taken a significant amount of time to get to this point. But yeah, the fact that he will have his day in court, I think actually is progress.
I think that if he wasn't in politics, a lot of this stuff wouldn't have been known. His own ego brought him to this point. It's like I'm watching, y'all know the show Narcos. So I've been kind of like binging on Narcos, right? Suzette, talking about Pablo Escobar. And it's like the moment that, men who do crazy stuff, illegal stuff, criminal stuff, who have it in their mind think, you know what, let me go into the public. Let me get into public work.
That's what he messed up at. I think being a public official was the worst thing that happened to him, because with how he's used to operating in private, nah, man.
That's what I'm saying. We didn't know none of this stuff.
Now. Yeah.
We wouldn't have known none of this stuff. And it's like you see this kind of pattern after with all of these men, like when men that get their wealth and power through illegal means, and they say, oh, okay, I'm gonna just shift it over into the public service space. Oh, I could run for president, like Pablo Escobar. He thought he could be the president of Colombia, or, like a Donald Trump who thinks, oh, no, no, no. But you got all this baggage. You got all of this other stuff. You got all these skeletons in your closet. And you tend to think that, you know what, it's going to be overlooked. And I think that that's part of the checks and balances. Like, there's no way in the world that you can allow what we saw on January the 6th to not be addressed in the length and the breadth that it has been addressed, from everything from the January 6th committee to the arrests
The
that have been made,
individuals that have been charged.
all of it, right? Like, so that had to be addressed.
Yeah,
it was too big to ignore. It was too big to write off as a tourist, as some Republicans. That was just a couple of tourists climbing the walls of the Capitol. It's too big to write off these things. You know what I'm saying? So I'm grateful that he did put himself into the public service space. Right, exactly. I'm grateful that he did, because now it opens up the situation. So it's just kind of interesting how that situation plays out.
So imagine what he was doing in business, Farajii. I'm just gonna leave it there.
Oh no, Suzette.
I don't know. But if all this was how he operated, his modus operandi, imagine all those cases where people talked about him as a landlord and investing and, filing for bankruptcy and leaving people hanging. Like, we should have known. There was a lot there. So
absolutely. Tiana, you checked in and said the checks and balances need a damn tune-up. Go to Jiffy Lube. Nicole. Thank you, Tiana. Nicole, you said, I hear you. Of Conscious Thought, 45 must be held accountable. He should not have been president, but he was elected. However, he absolutely under no circumstances should get a second term. Right. I hear you, Nicole. Thank you so much. Pauline, you checked in. Pauline Hurt, you said, truthfully speaking, Suzette, will Donald Trump spend any time in jail? Do you think that's going to happen?
It's hard to predict, but the way this indictment, the one in Miami is open and shut. So the only way I see that he doesn't is if he strikes a deal with the prosecution, with Jack Smith in them, like the other unidentified co-conspirators can as well. Their attorneys are looking at this and saying, that's your client's name in the middle of all this, right? What do you want to do? And the fact that they haven't been indicted kind of shows that they have stopped cooperating or are not as willing to work with the DOJ and the special counsel as they should be. But they will likely get their day. So will there be a deal struck? I don't know. Likelihood something is going to stick, right? To me, having documents that are clearly classified in your bathroom, in your Mar-a-Lago compound, and then telling people to lie about it when investigations occur.
Delete tapes.
The cover-up is worse than the crime, right? He could have given over the documents. It happened to President Biden. He gave it over. It happened to Mike Pence. They found classified documents. He gave it over. This man wanted to keep them and use them for whatever purposes he had. So now we're looking at these charges being, quite strong. And again, all of them don't have to be proven, just a few. And I think there is a very likely chance that we see some sort of conviction across the board. Jail time, I'm not 100% sure if any kind of deal will be struck.
Should the American people call for jail time?
Well, it'll be up to, the sentencing, right? Mm-hmm. The jury convicting, and then the judge having, federal sentencing guidelines. So I have not looked at the conspiracy guidelines as far as what the range would be. Yeah. But it will be up to a court of law, even though, the people may want to see certain outcomes. Yeah, it will be up to a court of law.
Well, here's something I think is a little bit more realistic, which is he doesn't have to sit on the ballot in states across the country.
That would be the difference. That's the difference maker, right?
You know what I'm saying? Like he can do it. Like the Republicans, they gotta respond. And I'm telling you, if they float some.
I know.
Suzette, if the Republicans close ranks and start making excuses and try to protect this man.
Will Hurd out of Texas, Republican who's been trying to speak up. He got booed while speaking at an event recently. Again, we've seen Chris Christie, we've seen Asa Hutchinson. They're just not pulling strong enough to have an impact, but there are people that are still very afraid to speak up because of that base. You haven't heard much from, Tim Scott standing by his man, Nikki Haley, these folks who are leading. Mr. DeSantis, although he seems to be his arch rival, he's now saying the DC system would indict a ham sandwich. Like, that's his latest comments about, this is unfair and we need to have equal courts of justice and equal application under the law. That's what we have. It doesn't matter that he was a president, right? He still violated federal codes and statutes. That this is what we're dealing with. No man is above the law. So we do have an equal system of justice, thank goodness. So you're gonna have all these supporters again because of his base. His base has been very committed. They don't look like they're changing direction anytime soon.
That is interesting and sad at the same time. All right, Suzette, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's talk about hip-hop artist Ice Cube, as he made an appearance on another person that is strong for the Republicans, Tucker Carlson's new show, talking about how he was snubbed. He has been snubbed from being in certain spaces around certain individuals, like Oprah and other folks. But there was a lot of controversy around the fact that Ice Cube even entertained coming onto the platform of a man like Tucker Carlson, whom some folks would call as a white nationalist. We'll have the conversation. And should you be able to talk to people who you may not always agree with? Should you sit down and have a discussion about your thoughts and ideas? We're going to have that conversation up next. Big Culture Convo. So stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all. All momentum we have now. We have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
You're rocking with the best.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in to the second hour. And if you missed the first hour, make sure you check us out, be a part of Team Replay, as my sister Suzette calls them. This is your chance to take a look at what we talked about in the first hour. And the first hour was talking about what's next, considering former President Donald Trump and the latest set of charges, the big indictment that has come down. So we had that conversation. But folks, you can definitely check us out at blackstarnetwork.com, where you can see all of the past shows. Today's show will be posted in a little bit, but you can see all the past shows there. Also, we're streaming live on Amazon News right now on your Roku TV. So definitely let your folks know. And of course, we're streaming on Facebook and on our YouTube page under Roland Martin. Make sure you check out Roland Martin's YouTube page. You can stream in there to join us in the conversation and be a part of today's Culture Crew. Now, let's talk about something that happened last week, but people are kind of still getting wind of the full details of the situation. This is the interview that hip-hop artist, hip-hop pioneer Ice Cube had with right-wing conservative voice talk show host Tucker Carlson for his show. And Tucker and Ice Cube did a ride-along through South Central Los Angeles, through South LA now, South LA, to talk about a number of things, from everything from politics to economic disparity and so much more. Now, some people have gotten upset that the It Was a Good Day artist even decided to even have a conversation with Tucker Carlson, who has been very vocal about his disdain for a number of issues around anything around Black people and shown that he is anti-Black. But Ice Cube said he's willing to talk to anybody, especially about his ideas and his agenda and what he thinks the next step should be for Black folks. And that has left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. So I want to bring my sister Suzette Speaks back into the frame as we talk about this, Suzette, because some people say it wasn't a good day for Ice Cube to hang out with Tucker Carlson and have these conversations. One of the big things there are a number of things that's taken away from the conversation that he did have. One is that he said he felt that he was snubbed by Oprah and The View, which is often seen as more liberal in their presentation of issues and topics. This is what Cube said in this quote. Take a look at this. He said, quote, "I tried to go on The View. They didn't have me on The View." He told Tucker Carlson, he said, "A few of the hosts just really didn't like where I was coming from. That's what I was told by the producers. I don't know if it was the producers was just copping out and using some of the hosts to have me not explain myself. I've been on there before. It's just when I've become an independent thinker, I don't follow their brand of politics, I guess." Now, the 54-year-old also named Winfrey as a figure who's been less than welcoming of him throughout his career, noting past instances in which he felt shunned by the billionaire. He said, "I've been excluded on Oprah," he said, adding that he's unsure of the cause of Winfrey's perceived aversion to having him on her platform. He said that this continues to be a way to keep him out of the conversation. So he feels he's been shunned by The View, he's been shunned by Oprah. There was another part of this that I pulled up. This is coming from Vibe magazine. They did a story the day after Ice Cube sat down with Tucker Carlson. He has been also very critical about the COVID-19 vaccine, where he said he felt like it was a rush job, that he didn't feel safe, and that he never told people not to get vaccinated, but he did feel like it wasn't the right thing to do at that time. And he also said that became critical of former President Barack Obama. He said that he doesn't believe in politicians and believe they have hidden agendas. And he said when he came to Barack Obama, he was optimistic when he took office. He said, "For the first time, I felt proud that America took that step." So that was a moment in time. But he said, "But then you look around, years go by and not much change for people I know, people I care about." He also said that things didn't change with the presidents before Obama. George Bush, Bill Clinton, George Bush Sr., Ronald Reagan, and Jimmy Carter. He said Obama's election to him was merely symbolism.
A little messy, are we?
I'm gonna just toss that your way.
It breaks my heart.
It breaks your heart.
So there are
some people are saying that cute. Yeah, I know. That's why I like bring you on, because you like the layer cake. You know what I mean? You don't want this.
we gotta kind of look at it from various angles here, because my brother, Mr. Ice Cube, I respect the fact that he is so bold in his convictions. He has
Yeah.
never shied away from being outside of the mainstream on his opinions, and specifically outside of the mainstream of Black thought, if you will, in our country, where he goes against the grain of what is sometimes viewed as liberal politics or policies, and he speaks his mind. And some may say he seems a little bit more conservative. He might just call himself as independent. Now, there was a big hubbubaloo when it came to the vaccine, because of course he has so much influence, right? He has a platform. Of course, there was a movie I believe he was supposed to shoot, and he didn't shoot it. He passed up the opportunity because they required that he be vaccinated, and that made viral headlines, seeing as though who can throw away a couple mil or few mil, or forego it. But he is a man of principle. I will say that he really stands on what he believes. So the question becomes, is it because of who he is, his viewpoints, how he expresses them, if they are going against the social norms, right? And or if it's because he has associated with the folks that you just mentioned, the likes of Tucker Carlson and other conservatives. So should a person be able to go over into, let's call it, the other neighborhood and speak with people of a diametrically opposite political stance and still be respected and still come back to their own? I believe the answer is yes. Now, there are people he has to understand that everybody don't think like that, and I do think it's important to engage with folks who do not think like you. Now, do you want to give validity to people who are at the extreme of those margins? No. Will you sit down with, like, you called him white supremacist? There are people that will agree with you in terms of Tucker Carlson.
No, I was just throwing it out there that some people call him a white nationalist.
I would, white nationalist. Pardon me.
Right.
There are people that will take umbrage with that type of characterization.
Yeah.
But for example, I will use, the founder of this network, Mr. Roland Martin, had an amazing interview a few months back on a more conservative, some may even call it at times conspiratorial platform called Valuetainment. He sat down with Patrick Bet-David. I think they were going back and forth on Twitter, if I remember correctly. And he, issue by issue, engaged with someone who was, again, at the polar opposite of what he believed on most issues. And it went viral. It was important, I think, for folks from that world. Again, we just talked about how the majority of Republicans who are probably going to vote still believe that Trump was the person that really won, like in their bubble. And I don't think, again, some of it is deviousness or maliciousness, or, they think that they are uneducated. No, they really believe all of the conspiracies and all of the misinformation that was fed to them for literally years, right, since that election. So if we avoid these spaces altogether, we are sometimes unable to fill the gap of knowledge and facts that others on these channels refuse to. But there are other people that might feel differently, that we are giving it validity by going over there. There are people that took umbrage in, Caitlin Collins's interview of Donald Trump. And the way CNN did it was that they filled the audience with Republican primary voters. So people were clapping at all the stuff that he said. And I think they were trying to, make a point as to where that base really is. So, should she have, I remember Sunny Hostin saying, she should have never, the network did the American people a disservice by even giving him a platform. But I do think at some point in some time, it's appropriate to engage. Or you have us in these silos, and then people forget, there are parts of the American dream that we all share. And there's information that you think is right or that you think is the Bible, and we are, living in separate worlds of facts. And that's why we have such division in politics. So I think if we stay in our little side of the road and they stay on their side of the road and no one talks, we can't make progress. So I do think, though, there are consequences to having these opinions in the modern day era of politics that we live in. So Ice Cube is feeling those consequences, and not everybody is open-minded and saying, brother, speak your mind, and then you can come over here. Maybe they feel like if giving him a platform will, in fact, help him promote things that they don't agree with, they're not going to do it. So, yeah, there's consequences. Everybody feels.
Oh, yeah, there are huge consequences. And I agree with you there, Suzanne. I think that there are huge consequences to it. But I do feel like, and this is just me, like I'm open to having conversations with people that I do disagree with, excuse me. I think that this is the point of the show. I remember when we started the show, the one of the core elements is that if someone, whether somebody in our culture crew or whether it's a guest that we have on, expresses some things that I don't agree with, how will I handle it? I'm going to let you say it. Now, you can't come on and be disrespectful, but if you explain your viewpoint, it's crazy for me to expect us to have a conversation about the culture and everything falls in line with what I see, how I believe. And it's like me shutting down any culture crew member because they disagree with me.
Yeah.
Like as if we all live as if we live in a community or a city or a state where we all think the same way. And I'm talking about among Black people. We're not a monolith. You know what I'm saying? So I think that there is a lot, and we got to take a quick pause, but on the other side, crew members, I want y'all to jump into this as well, because I feel like it happens all the time. You cannot have growth. There cannot be understanding that's generated unless you truly sit down and understand how people think. Now, I'm not saying, again, this is, if somebody says, look, I really want to understand, we don't agree, but I want to have a meeting with you. This came up yesterday too, Suzette, because your man, I know it's not your guy, Ron DeSantis called Vice President Kamala Harris to have a meeting with him about the Black history curriculum.
Right.
And I said she should meet with him. Or if somebody from the team, it don't have to be her, because I get it, Vice President, Governor, I get all of that. But she should meet with him. I mean, we can't be afraid. We want to have these conversations, and more importantly, we want to have engagement from afar. But there are moments in history, whether you're talking about American history or even Black history, where we have met leaders, voices have met with other folks who did not agree, or that did not have the same page, that were not on the same page with one another. And there's an opportunity for growth. There's an opportunity to learn. There's some opportunities to come out of that. Now, would you want to sit down with Tucker Carlson? I mean, no, I wouldn't. I mean, we saw what happened with Kanye. We're seeing what's happening with Q. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to get mad at Q for sitting down with Tucker Carlson. If other people shun him, he can't get an audience with Oprah. He can't get an audience on The View. He can't get an audience in other spaces. What do you expect him to do? I got to take a quick pause. Look, I got to take a quick pause. When we come back, more conversation, folks. Should we talk to people that we don't agree with? Talking about Ice Cube, Tucker Carlson. What's your take on this, crew? Join us in the conversation. We're streaming live on YouTube right now under Roland Martin's YouTube page. Post your thoughts, share your questions, and let's continue the dialogue on the other side. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Your money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is rmartin unfiltered. Venmo is RM unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Hey, Black, I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been talking about, for our big culture convo, Ice Cube, hip-hop artist, legend, entrepreneur, songwriter. I mean, Mr. Ice Cube, he's been a part of the game for over 30 years, 40 years nearly. How he sat down in a recent discussion with Tucker Carlson for Tucker Carlson's show last week. And it has created a set of controversy about Ice Cube sitting down with a person who some would deem as a white nationalist, a white supremacist. And some people say, well, why would Ice Cube even sit down with a man, having conversations, doing a ride along through South LA to talk about everything from economic disparity to political engagement and a whole lot more. And so there was a lot of controversy around this. And so we're asking the question, should we talk to those who we disagree with? And there are moments in history, whether you're talking about American history or Black history, folks, where Black leaders sat down with people who were diametrically opposed to them on a number of viewpoints, but they still held a conversation. And I want to get your take on this, folks, as we have this, because my sister Suzette, I think, Suzette, you bring up something that we often find ourselves in silos. And I think this is a part of our current culture, right? Like anybody who disagrees with us, whether it's on social media or face-to-face or any space, even on this space, right? It's so easy to block somebody. It's so easy to disengage, right? But it's harder. And then so I think in some cases, it takes a much more mature person to hear someone out. Unless somebody's calling you out your name or something like that, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about having a very real conversation with somebody who believes a certain way. I remember, let me just the wildest thing happened. I'm driving, Suzette. I get a flat tire, right? My tire's dead. The first person, this happened to me maybe about a week and a half ago. The first person that pulled over, I wanted to share this with y'all so bad. The first person that's pulled over to help me was a white male in a truck that had Trump 2024 on the side of the truck. Man, not lying. He in Los Angeles. And he pulled up and he said, "Hey, buddy." I said, "Hey." And look, I'm kind of quick with the eyes. I saw the Trump 2024 truck. It was broad daylight. So, I'm like, all right, you got Trump, nobody else in the car. He's like, "Hey man, look, I saw you were down. You okay? I said, no, man, I'm good. I appreciate that. It was like, no problem, man, no problem. I hope you have a safe day. He said, I got some stuff in the back.
What he got in the bag?
Now, you know,
no thanks.
No, they ain't got nothing in the back because I got something in the trunk too. No, let me stop playing. But it was just in that random. I mean, the dude was very genuine. He's like, look, man, I can help you out if you need some help. But he had a big Trump 2024 on his windowsill. Look, it was like painted. And I just thought to myself, I said, well, golly gee, that is interesting, right? So I'm not saying that it happens all the way like that.
And everybody who supports Trump is not a bad person.
It's right. It's not, and I'm not saying that. And I know I can be strong about it, but I'm just saying like it's something that in terms of not cutting ourselves off from having conversations. Let me share something that one of our culture crew members, I think it's You Are Not a Victim. Who said this? Because this is interesting. All right, go ahead, Suzette. Share your thoughts. And
I was just going to add with the point that you made about Kamala Harris not meeting with Ron DeSantis, right? Because that is a controversial decision. Some people agree with your stance, which is, why not? But we know that there's some level of political gamesmanship when it comes to
facts.
DeSantis. So her stance has been the opposite. I will not meet with you to argue about what is fact, that there was no redeeming value or no benefits conferred upon African Americans during the hellish period of American slavery. Like, no, we're not going to pretend that there is a dispute in the facts of what occurred. So I can understand her approach in that regard. I don't know if she sees him as a genuine and honest kind of broker to be able to sit down and have a dialogue with. But I do agree with that premises, because even myself, when it comes to what different outlets I have been approached by, a conservative outlet has reached out to me and I'm like, ooh, do I want to be a Black woman punching bag? Because I'm not about to do that. But there's nobody voicing a certain opinion on that platform. So would it actually be helpful to be able to espouse other beliefs other than, the same, crew that's there? And, could I be effective in communicating a message outside of what their viewers are used to? It has, we as a community tend to be less forgiving when you are associated with any type of really ultra conservative, type of media outlet. Now, again, there's to me a distinction to be made with people who are downright, open white supremacist pariahs of society. And I'm thinking about people like maybe a Nick Fuentes and these folks that folks I've seen in the manosphere here on YouTube. He's gotten a lot of interviews as of late where people are sitting down and chatting with him and not challenging him, seemingly buddy and very just open to, him saying whatever on their platforms. I don't agree with that. It has to have some sort of meaningful dialogue, but dialogue is important for democracy. If we don't have, people being able to openly express their opinions without fear, you have, again, one group, and they vote their feelings, though. They might not tell you out loud, but I want people to be able to tell me out loud and not just, covertly go to the ballot box and say, okay, yeah, that sounds great, politically correct in the public, but no, we're not playing that game. And hence we have someone like Mr. Trump. So we have to be very careful when we're strict to punish those who go outside, the mainstream when it comes to their opinions. And even if we disagree with them, I think we got to be thoughtful and allowing for some space for expression and ideas that are outside of our own. When we start to lock in, oh, you Black and you sit over there, you can criticize.
Yeah.
If you have a difference of opinion, are you going to go over there and challenge? Or are you going to be castigated for sitting down to have the conversation? We run a risk, right? As Black leaders, and people are not always as open to say, "Oh, wait, they don't even listen to the conversation. They see the headline that you went over there or you spoke to so and so, and that becomes kind of like a mark on you, as Cube is talking about. So it's risky. People are not as mature or as open-minded oftentimes as we'd like them to be. And politics has become so divisive that it's like, if you're not on my side, you on their side. And I don't want to hear nothing else from you. Don't come over here and ask us for no favors. And I think that's a very dangerous.
Very dangerous. And you know what that stems from? It stems from us putting more emphasis on personality rather than principle. Putting more emphasis on personality rather than truth. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, white or black, if you live on that side of the tracks or this side of the tracks. Truth is truth. If the Republicans say something that's truthful, I got to bear witness to the fact that it's truthful. You see what I'm saying? Like if I start getting, and I'm glad that you made this point, that if we start going down that slippery path that truth is spoken, even from somebody that whose ideas we don't agree with, that quote unquote diminishes the value of that truth. If we start going down that slippery road and say, well, it came from Tucker Carlson, so therefore it's less true. No. If Tucker Carlson said that there are more black families, there are more black women in the household that are leading the household than black men. Oh, that's racist. That's true.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like, I get what you're saying. It's okay that's coming from him. But if he states that, is it true? That is the dictator. That is the determining factor. The determining factor is not about the personality. The determining factor is whatever they're putting out there. Is it true or is it not? You are not a victim. You said too many debates, not enough conversations. Everyone is looking to destroy or own the other side and not understand their point of view. Social media culture, Suzette, you and I both know this. That's all it is. It's gotcha type of stuff. You want to go and see social media and you want to see somebody get destroyed on social media. You want to get them oblivious. Like, yeah, man, I see how people are with Roland. Roland will come into a space, he will destroy you if you know what I'm saying? And that's fine. But that's what people love. People love that type of destroy. But guess what? Did you get any understanding? Did you get any growth from somebody coming from being destroyed? Because at some point, we all could offer something to the conversation based on truth.
Right. And I think it should be okay to allow dissenting opinion, especially in the Black community. I think sometimes we are programmed to want to say, you know, of course, there are political stances, right, and policies that do benefit us more. And so it would make more sense that, you know, we align when they come forward. But we still have to make room for dissent, for people to be able to say, all right, well, I see your point, but I disagree. And may I offer my point? And we can't hold those people, you know, to the fire, so to speak, when it comes to, you know, just expressing it. We might be able to counteract it with facts and say, listen, you came with this, but listen, that you know, is misguided and misjudged. But yeah, would you sit down with, you know, a Candace Owens? Would you sit down with some of these other?
I would. Actually, I would like to. If you look, this is so funny you bring her up because there was a story that I did. I listened to an audio story. I think it was Vanity Fair that did a whole expose on Candace Owens. And it talks about her childhood. And one of the big moments of her childhood is that she was brutally beaten by a group of white girls when she was like in high school. She was brutally beaten, hospitalized, and the whole nine. It was a really in-depth situation. And she talked about how that changed her life. Now, the crazy part is where she stands politically, but she talks about race relations growing up. See, and I'm not, and I know Candace Owens can be a divisive figure, a polarizing figure. But if you know a person's story like that, for me, that's insightful. Like, damn, she was brutal. So how did she get from here to here? You see what I'm saying? Versus like,
oh, know that is to engage with her, right? So, yeah.
If you engage with her and she, because she's not going to tell you. She's not going to tell you that she was beaten by some white girls in high school. She's not going to tell you that she was blasted for being black and talking black by her own people. She's not going to tell you that stuff. But if you know that stuff, then it helps you to understand people. And that's what it's coming back down to. I'm not saying that we're going to always agree, But for me, at least for me, if I understand how you got to the place that you're in, I'm more better able to understand, okay, let me see where you stand on this. But we're in a culture where we don't want to hear people's backstories. We don't want to understand where a person comes from. It's easy for us in our current culture, Suzette, to categorize you as Democrat, Republican, to categorize you with black and white, to categorize you, oh, you
against me. Yeah.
That's easier for our brains to understand.
My friend or my foe. Yeah, you preach it, Farajii.
Versus really doing the critical work and the thinking and analysis of like, damn, it's not that easy. It's not that black and white. There's actually some areas of gray within this person's personality, within their character. And it's harder for us to see a person for the uniqueness that they bring to whatever the discussion is, versus just putting them. That's easy. That's easy. Some people might say to me, oh, your last name Muhammad, therefore you boom, 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 boom. But if you don't know me, then you won't miss out on some jewels about who I am.
Oh.
All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, we're going to continue the conversation. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
For decades, the tobacco industry has deliberately targeted Black communities and kids with marketing for menthol cigarettes. It's had a devastating impact on Black health. Tobacco use claims 45,000 Black lives every year. It's the #1 cause of preventable death. In the 1950s, less than 10% of Black smokers used menthol cigarettes. Today, it's 85%. Menthol cools and numbs the throat, making it easier for kids to start smoking. Menthol also increases addiction, making it harder for smokers to quit. Menthol cigarettes are a big reason why Black Americans have a harder time quitting smoking and die at higher rates from smoking-related diseases like cancer, heart disease, and stroke. It's time to stop Big Tobacco from profiting off Black lives. An FDA ban on menthol cigarettes will improve Black health, save lives, and protect future generations from addiction. Learn more at tobaccofreekids.org/ban menthol.
When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been talking about Ice Cube and on Tucker Carlson's show and how it's created a lot of controversy for the rapper and the hip hop artist and legend, because many people say that, you know what, Cube is showing signs that he might be going to the other side. But it also opened up the discussion around our ability to talk to people who we don't agree with. So we're posing the question today: should we talk to folks that don't agree with you? Should you talk to them? Now, it's interesting, and I got my sister Suzette Speaks joining us, of course, here on Wednesday. Suzette, it's interesting that we all live in different neighborhoods, right? We don't know who's next to us and our neighbors in terms of their politics, unless we have conversations with them. You know what I'm saying? Unless there's an outward expression. I remember, like in my neighborhood, this one guy had a Trump flag, you know, right there on his front lawn. You know what I'm saying? But unless somebody shows you or it kind of gives you some indicator of where their stance may be, like I said, you had a Trump supporter that was going to help me fix my flag tie.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't assume nothing anymore. I don't assume anybody's politics. I talk to them and ask them about it.
Hey, look, how many black people have you talked to, Suzette, who you've been like, oh yeah, you in the space, and then as soon as they open up their mouth, you just like, you know what I'm saying? Because I think it's so easy for us to just put people in a box, and I think that has been the issue, and that is why the culture in a lot of these conversations don't move as far as we need to go, right? And as much as we say that, oh, black folks are not a monolith, I think some of us, and this is my understanding of things, but I think some of us wish we were a monolith. Yeah. I think that some of us really kind of hate the fact that you do have black people who think different ways. You know what I'm saying? Like Ice Cube, look at all that he has brought to the conversation around arts and culture, black history. We love some of his music and all of that. And he could do one interview and then we're ready to toss away 30 years of genius, a black music genius, his writing genius. He'd do one interview. He'd do a couple of interviews. See, I told you, the man. Yeah, is that fair? Is that right? I don't know. I'm just posing some questions. Let me go to some of our culture crew. Cindy D, you say in my neighborhood, one guy has a Confederate flag and an American flag. Is he an American? I don't know, Cindy, is he? Like, I don't know. Just because you got an American flag and a Confederate flag.
Listen, this is the thing. You can't assume, as you stated, there are people who can be, very, very principled, who are on both sides. And I think if you were firm in your beliefs, there should be no reason that you do not want to engage, right? If you know your facts, what is the, challenge going to do to your state of mind or your perspective, except, have you entrenched even further because based on what the person is offering, it's inaccurate or there are holes in it, or it can expand your possibilities, which is what we want people to do. Critical thinking is super important. And again, Ice Cube might even add a layer to the principle that the mainstream media are the people that pick winners and losers. And if you're on one side of an issue, you are a winner and they'll cover you and you'll get to sit with whoever you want when it comes to, the biggest platforms and the biggest interviews. And if you're not, you're going to have to go to people like, on the other side of the aisle with the Tucker Carlsons and others. Do you blame him for that? Or do we say, there's not enough embracing of divergent opinions, and that, he's maybe right when it comes to why he feels he's been, I hate the term blackballed, but why he feels he has not been able to sit for interviews on these prestigious platforms. Maybe he's right. And maybe we need to question that a little bit more as to why we don't allow. I think it would be obvious. That's what I think the argument was when they said Trump on CNN could have been helpful, where there are people that would be like, well, now I really can see through more of the BS than ever. But then there are others, again, because of their limited set of misinformation, even facts, that they really looked at it and thought, yay, attaboy, told you he was right, and that kind of thing. I think the contrasting points of view being presented together is very helpful.
Absolutely. And Cindy, to your point about your neighbor, maybe he's posting the Confederate flag because he wants to get back to the time where states, where America wasn't so corporatized and commercialized, and capitalism wasn't the only thing. Maybe he's saying, look, what happened to the time where the people were truly the ones dictating the agenda? I don't know. Maybe that's how he feels about it. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he was Confederate. I don't know. But I'm just saying, if a man who has a Confederate shirt says some good words to you, or even says a word of truth, do you reject him because of where he's coming from, or what he looks like, or anything? See, and that's the part of it. We got to be very careful, because truth, we're in this time today, Suzette, where we don't have the liberty to reject any good words, any guidance, any truth, regardless of whom or where it comes from. We don't have that liberty. The country is in a crisis. Black people are in a crisis. So if somebody, even if the most racist white man or the most racist or hateful person just says, you know what, Black people, I agree, y'all should do some independence. Y'all should advocate for Black independence or Black advocacy. Are we gonna say, no, we should not because you said it? That's silly.
Yeah,
that's absolutely silly.
We don't know until we engage. There can be so much meaning behind that flag where, it can be like, we wish that you guys never got equality and, you were still on the plantation.
And I'm not saying you throw yourself out there either.
We are,
you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying.
Careful. Don't make any assumptions.
Yeah, I'm not, don't make it. Don't make any assumptions.
But, yeah, I think it's tough to even in the workplace, people tell you not to discuss anything like religion and politics, but there are people that do, right? And I know business owners who are firmly one way or another, down here, where you have to be, strategic when you engage them in, fundraising and other things when it comes to where they land or what events you invite them to, or other parts of kind of like the political process. It's really important that we start to create the type of atmosphere that we want in politics. I know a lot of things make us very upset, and we can't believe there are people on the other side of the aisle that, believe policy that is, contradictory to anything that we could ever imagine.
Yeah.
But they're going to be in the halls of power. They are going to be in our state legislatures. So if you don't engage with them one way or another, they're still in their little box, in their little world, not really understanding where we come from, right? Our plight, where we are in terms of the issues. So we got to engage no matter the political affiliation, no matter the economics. People have various experiences, and the only way for them to know yours is for you to engage. And again, there are a lot of people that will be very polite, right, in certain company, but their politics is, deplorable, some would call it, in terms of, their stance on certain social issues, let me say, right? They're not deplorable intrinsically, but just it's just the opposite of what I would think on social issues, right? Or even in a little bit more, I don't know what to call it, but just beyond, the fringes, let's say. But you still, in our society, people have the right. People have the right, our free speech, even though we find that speech to be deplorable, they have the right to say it and express it. But again, there may be social and economic consequences in this great land that we are a part of. And it can be very difficult to be as bold as an Ice Cube if you don't have the money and the means to be able to afford the consequences. Like many people, will say, I'll openly share, and they won't, right? And so we have to create the atmosphere that we want.
But guess what, though?
Exchange of ideas is important for democracy.
Very quickly, guess what, though? Ice Cube, there are still many people within our community, within the Black community, that will agree with Ice Cube on a number of issues, right? So he still serves as a major voice in the community. You may not agree with everything he has to say, but there's still a number of folks, Black folks, that would agree with him on a number of topics. So he's welcomed into the space, regardless of how we might see him. Benny Hill, you checked in and you said we should have more in-house conversations and less public discussions on white-owned networks. The narrative is already controlled. Have discussions after our ideology is understood amongst us.
That's an interesting
point. I agree. Yeah, it's a very interesting point. I got to take another quick pause. Benny, when we come back, I want to get to that very quickly. and get some final thoughts from Suzette here as we talk about this, folks. So stay with us. It's The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Big Tobacco targets black communities with marketing for menthol cigarettes. In the 1950s, less than 10% used menthol cigarettes. Today, it's 85%. FDA, ban menthol cigarettes, save lives.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We have been talking to people that you may not agree with, as Ice Cube sat down with Tucker Carlson for an in-depth conversation about a host of issues while doing a ride-along in South Los Angeles. And people are like, what? Why did you even do that, Ice Cube? That's against the culture, and blah, 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 and all these things. But I'm questioning whether we should even, how do we entertain folks, or should we even have a conversation with people that we don't agree with? So we've been having this very, very important discussion because I think this is a huge element of our culture that we should be talking more about. It's easy to jump into your silos. It's easy for us to get into these very, our little spaces and kind of get into these echo chambers of the things that we want to see. We do it on our social media. We do it at work. We do it in our homes. We do it in our communities. When do we ever commingle with people who we don't agree with? Who said this? And I want to bring my sister Suzette Speaks back into the frame on this. Maddie, my producer Maddie put this up. You don't like my music. You said if we only speak to those we agree with, we will never be challenged.
Absolutely. Like this is where we kind of hamper progress. If you believe your stance is infallible, it's not, right? Listening to other people's perspectives, gathering more facts and information than you have. I just had a conversation with somebody the other day about, he's like, I never heard of this. I'm like, yeah, you didn't. So here am I to introduce some new facts to you. And so you can broaden your knowledge, your horizons on this particular issue. A lot of people kind of get stuck in their finite world that, this is what I heard on one outlet. They don't check more than one. They don't listen to a variety of both liberal leaning and conservative. They don't think of it as, necessary. They got one point of view and they agree with that point of view. But it's important for us to do our homework, right? As voters, as people who hold this democracy in their hands. This is a part of our responsibilities. There was a time where people sat down and watched the evening news and made sure they were informed about things, maybe even read the newspaper or an online version of it. You know what I mean? So it's important that we are, taking in information. I know it can be overwhelming. And I think we have a very hectic news cycle. So people are overwhelmed. And sometimes it's, even yesterday, I didn't touch news yesterday, but it was important for me, to try to stay as informed as I can and still create some balance where, there are days off, but as a whole, you're not just thinking you have all the information just because you looked at one article or one source or this is what this person says, so it must be right. We have to have a variety of sources. And I think that's what's troubling some of our brothers and sisters on the other side of the aisle. They're only getting their sources from certain places, and it's not allowing them to hear new perspectives.
That's right.
Different set of facts.
That's right. That's right.
They have been shutting it out as that's a lie. That is not what happened.
Hey, Suzette, you speaking some truth. And Benny also said, whatever happened to us getting on code/message, white Republicans, conservative Democrats have specific messaging and a code they adhere to. We see it. Where is our code that we can all stick by? We don't have no code because we always question each other. We don't trust each other's judgment. And I'm talking about Black people with Black leadership. We don't trust them. We don't trust their judgment.
If you want to get deeper, Farajii, how you get on code is, I think there are different policy institutes. And if you want to stay within the politics context, we could say, if you are part or interested in the Democratic platform, I'm working with Black voter outreach here in Florida. We've been talking about how do we get our ducks in order. There has been no real statewide organization and planning going on. But, there is a platform committee. Whether it's done by the Democratic Party itself, Republican Party, there are people that can volunteer within the party structure. We've been talking about voting, and we've been talking about, different ways to engage.
Yeah.
But party activism, volunteering for your local party in your county or parish or city, and putting yourself on a board or two. We've been talking about civic engagement, your city boards and your county boards, municipal boards, but within the parties itself, these multi-billion-dollar entities called the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, there are positions, both paid and volunteer, where people can get involved with the rulemaking, with the agenda setting, right? What we talk about, I'm specifically referring to the platform because I'm ready to see what the Florida Democrats are doing with the platform.
Yeah.
I'm like, who on the platform committee? Who of us is on the platform committee? When can we expect the first meeting? I'm asking those questions right now within the Florida, a statewide Democratic Party. So there are ways to set the agenda. If you don't want to work within the party, you go through, other third party type organizations.
Right.
Advocacy, and you get involved. If that's not your way of producing, there are other ways. But sitting on the sideline and at home alone, those times for African Americans especially are up, or just a vote is up. We have to be a part of the rulemaking and the agenda setting processes. And there are parties all over the country, local and statewide, that we can start to engage in, give your money to, or whatever way you're going to help build the agenda.
Right. And look, very quickly as we close out, Andre John, you said courage is when you meet and talk to someone who is completely opposing. I think that's a good part of it. That is courageous nowadays. That is courageous. So I appreciate you for posting that, Andre. Here's the thing, like, for example, very quickly, Cornel West is running for president. Are we all on the same page about Cornel West?
Democrats don't want him to be on the stage. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
No. Here's the though, and that's the point. Cornel West, a man who has brought his insight, his scholarship, his history. When you listen to Cornel West, you feel like you're going to church and college at the same time, right?
True.
But guess what? Black folks, all Black folks ain't going to put their support behind Cornel West. They're going to be behind Joe Biden. They're going to be behind some other candidate. So when we talking about, and to Benny's point, and I get your point, Benny, but you're saying that being on code, we have had Black leaders in particular, I'm talking about for Black folks, we've had Black leaders present a number of different programs, whether you're talking about Al Sharpton, or you're talking about Minister Farrakhan, whether you're talking about Jesse Jackson, regardless of what organization you talk about, they have all rolled out programs and ways in which we can make some strong advancements in this country. And each time, it's one of our people or a group of our people that are like, nah, this ain't enough, or this ain't going to happen. Or there's always some pushback from our own.
Remember when Jefferson had the state of Black America going on?
Come on. Hey, look. And check this out. These are coming from people who we know love Black people. Who has a track record of serving Black people, but you still got Black people that's still like, nah. I mean, I don't know about this idea. I don't know about that idea.
We've been let down
why are we on code? We should ask ourselves this. Why am I never in agreement with those who are in leadership positions? And that's the question. Why am I not in agreement? Because see, some of us disagree so much, we disagree ourselves into negativity, into nothingness.
Mm-hmm. Into non-participation.
Non-participation.
But remember, we don't necessarily want a spoiler in this election. I'm just going to say it one more time. Sorry.
All right, Suzette, it's time to go.
We love Brother West. We love Brother West.
Hey, look. Here's the thing. I get the spoiler thing, but I'm again, and I'm saying this with all due sincerity. I get the spoiler thing, but it comes down to principle at this point. Like, something's got to change. I get it, but something's got to change. If it's Joe Biden, your team around you got to be more diverse than Miami and Los Angeles. You feel what I'm saying? Suzette? I'm talking about his team, the people. It can't be just white men and women. And you saying that you want to bring a diversity and you want to do this and you want to do that, and the only people around you is predominant.
I know personally several Black people that have worked directly in the White House, so he has some.
Right. But see, you take like a Joe Biden and you say, okay, well, let instead of saying we don't want Cornel West on the platform, say to Dr. West, let's hear some of your ideas. And let's see if we can slowly implement these ideas. They did the same thing to Bernie Sanders, right? When he was running against Hillary. We don't want that, all that stuff. You don't, and it seems like it's the hardest thing for a candidate that's the leading candidate to sit down and say, let me look at your ideas.
Nope. But I'm glad Cornel West is there to push that envelope, right? Just by him setting his own platform, having, these public kind of discourse moments of, well, this is what the Democrats have said, this is what the Republicans have said, this is what I offer. It's going to implicitly or maybe explicitly kind of shift the parties, especially when it comes to Black issues. So I don't think it's a problem. But I think when we get in that ballot box, we really have to think about so many different outcomes that are a result of that vote. So we got to keep that in mind. But I'm enjoying it. We got to go.
I'm enjoying it. My sister Suzette, my sister from another mother. Make sure y'all check out her show, Suzette Speaks Show on YouTube. You can find her on all social media platforms. She's highly involved on social media. Got a strong presence in various spaces. So make sure y'all support her. Make sure y'all sign up to subscribe to her show. She's a phenomenal sister doing some great work down in Florida and South Florida. Suzette, it's always a pleasure to connect with you. So thank you for being so good for the culture.
Always great conversation, y'all. And come check me out. I'm going live in about 30 minutes. I appreciate it. Thanks, Farajii.
Talk to you soon. Appreciate you. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I want to thank my dynamic team, Maddie. I want to thank Shannon Joel and my man, King Keenan, for making me look and sound so good each and every day. Thank you, sir. Folks, make sure you do your due diligence. Support us here at Black Star Network. Go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Support us financially. We would love to get your support. Big shout out to one of our new Bring the Funk fan club members, Dennis Matthews II. Dennis Matthews, let's get that horn for him. There we go. Dennis, thank you so much for tuning in, bro. We truly appreciate you, and hopefully you enjoyed the conversation here in the culture. Okay, how about that? Yes, you are, folks. So thank you so much. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. Stay tuned. Up next at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. RMU, Roland Martin Unfiltered. But as always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk tomorrow. Follow me on my social media platform. Love to connect with you at The Real Farajii on Instagram and on all social media platforms. And God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. There we go. Peace.